First contact in the void. The darkness of deep space stretched endlessly before Commander Kira Nash as she stood at the helm of the TSS Hyperion. The ship's quantum sensors picked up an anomalous energy signature emanating from the Carina Nebula's outer rim, far from any charter trading routes. "Commander, the signal pattern matches no known configuration in our database," Lieutenant Roth reported from his station, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "But there's something else, it's pulsing in a perfect Fibonacci sequence." Kira's eyes narrowed as she studied the readout. After 15 years in deep space exploration, she'd learned that perfection in chaos usually meant intelligence. "Take us in closer, but maintain defensive screens at maximum. Something about this feels wrong." As the Hyperion drew closer, they discovered the source, a massive vessel of unknown design, its hull gleaming with an iridescent material that seemed to shift colors in the starlight. But what caught Kira's attention were the scorch marks and tears across its surface, as if something had tried to claw its way out from within. "Life signs?" she asked, already reaching for her tactical tablet. "1, Commander. Weak but stable. The ship's internal atmosphere is still intact, but showing signs of contamination with an unknown biological agent." The decision weighed heavily on Kira's shoulders. First contact scenarios were delicate enough without complications, but leaving someone to die violated everything she stood for. "Prep the quarantine bay. I'm leading the rescue team myself." The boarding party consisted of Kira, Dr. Jean Park, their xenobiologist, and security chief Rodriguez. As they crossed through the emergency airlock, their boots magnetized to the alien vessel's deck with a soft click. The interior was unlike anything Kira had seen before. The corridors seemed to pulse with a bioluminescent glow, and the architecture followed organic curves rather than rigid lines. But what struck her most was the silence, the oppressive, almost conscious silence that seemed to watch their every move. They found the survivor in what appeared to be the ship's control center. A tall, graceful figure lay slumped against a crystal-like console, their skin a deep indigo marked with luminescent patterns. Dr. Park's scanner hummed as he approached. "Remarkable," he whispered. "The cellular structure, it's unlike anything in our records. But there's something else, something parasitic trying to bond with their neural pathways." The alien's eyes snapped open, revealing irises that shimmered like liquid mercury. "You must leave," they gasped in perfect English, making everyone jump. The translator, "It works through thought patterns, but that's not important. You're all in danger." Kira stepped forward, her hand raised in a peaceful gesture. "I'm Commander Kira Nash of the Earth Alliance. We're here to help. I am Nixthera, last survivor of the research vessel Luminous Seeker. And you cannot help, Commander. What's happening here is beyond your understanding." The alien tried to stand but stumbled, revealing a web-like pattern of dark veins spreading across their skin. "We were experimenting with something we found in the void between galaxies," Nixthera continued, each word seeming to cause pain. "A consciousness unlike anything we'd encountered. We thought we could control it, use it to advance our species. We were wrong." A sudden tremor ran through the ship, and the bioluminescent walls pulsed with an angry red light. Nixthera's eyes widened in terror. "It's awakening. The symbiote, it doesn't just take over bodies, it absorbs minds, memories, knowledge. With each host, it grows smarter, stronger." Chief Rodriguez's hand moved to his weapon. "Commander, recommend immediate withdrawal." But Kira couldn't look away from Nixthera's desperate eyes. She saw something there, not just fear, but a fierce intelligence and an iron will that reminded her of humanity's own struggle to survive among the stars. "We're not leaving you here," Kira declared, moving to help Nixthera up. As their hands touched, both gasped as an electric current seemed to pass between them. For a moment, Kira saw flashes of memories that weren't her own, a beautiful world of crystal spires, a civilization that had reached for the stars with hope and curiosity, and then the darkness that had consumed it all. "Impossible," Nixthera whispered. Your mind, it's resistant somehow. Your species has something we lack, something that might be the key to fighting this. Another tremor, stronger this time, shook the ship. Warning lights began flashing across the alien consoles. The containment field is failing, Nixthera warned. If the symbiote reaches its full strength, it will spread across this entire sector. Your world, my world, nothing will be safe. Kira's mind raced through options, each seeming worse than the last. But giving up wasn't in her nature. Then we fight it together. Two species, two different ways of thinking, maybe that's what it takes to beat this thing. As if in response to her words, the ship's corridors began to fill with a writhing darkness that moved with terrifying intelligence. The first battle in humanity's greatest war was about to begin, and everything hung on the unlikely alliance forming between a human commander and an alien warrior who had both glimpsed something larger than themselves in each other's minds. The symbiote's shadow. Red emergency lights pulsed through the Hyperion's quarantine bay as Dr. Jean Park studied the readings from Nixthera's neural scan. The alien warrior lay on the examination table, indigo skin glistening with a sheen of sweat as the dark veins beneath pulsed rhythmically. The symbiote's cellular structure is like nothing we've encountered, Park muttered, adjusting his instruments. It's not just parasitic, it's adaptive, learning from each host it encounters. But Commander, look at this. He gestured to a secondary display showing Kira's own neural patterns. The brief mental contact you shared with Nixthera triggered something unique in your brain chemistry. Kira rubbed her temples, still feeling echoes of the alien memories she'd glimpsed. Can you explain it in simple terms, Doctor? Your neural pathways are generating a kind of interference pattern. It's similar to how noise-canceling technology works, but on a biological level. The symbiote can't establish a proper connection. From the examination table, Nixthera's voice came weak but determined. My people, the Lyrians, we evolved in perfect harmony with our environment. Perhaps too perfect. We never needed to develop the kind of mental barriers humans instinctively possess. Lieutenant Roth's voice crackled over the intercom, tension evident in his tone. Commander, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the alien vessel. Something's happening. Kira moved to the observation window, watching as patches of darkness began spreading across the quarantined ship's hull like ink in water. It's not just spreading, it's evolving. Nixthera, what aren't you telling us? The alien warrior struggled to sit up, mercury eyes reflecting the pulsing emergency lights. The symbiote exists simultaneously across multiple dimensional planes. What you see is merely its physical manifestation. In the higher dimensions, it's consuming, growing, learning. A sudden tremor ran through the Hyperion, causing equipment to rattle. Dr. Park's instruments began screaming alerts as Nixthera's vital signs spiked. The dark veins beneath their skin writhed like living things. It's trying to establish a collective consciousness, Nixthera gasped. Every mind it absorbs becomes part of its network. But your human minds, they're different. Chaotic. Unpredictable. It can't properly integrate them. Security Chief Rodriguez burst into the quarantine bay, his face pale. Commander, we have a situation. 2 engineering crew members are showing signs of infection. They were examining samples from the alien vessel. Kira's mind raced through options. They couldn't risk the symbiote spreading through the ship, but she refused to abandon her crew. An idea began forming, dangerous, possibly insane, but potentially their only chance. Dr. Park, you said my neural patterns interfere with the symbiote's ability to establish control. Could we use that somehow? Amplify it? Park's eyes widened as he followed her thinking. Theoretically, yes. The ship's quantum communication array could be modified to broadcast a similar interference pattern. But Commander, attempting to link your consciousness to the ship's systems could be fatal. And if we do nothing, we all die anyway. Kira turned to Nixthera. Your people understood consciousness transfer technology. Could you help guide me through this? The alien warrior's mercury eyes locked onto hers. The risk is enormous. But I sense in you a strength my people never possessed, the ability to remain individual even when connected to something larger. Perhaps that's what we needed all along. Together, they began converting the quarantine bay into an improvised neural interface chamber. Dr. Park worked frantically to modify the quantum array while Nixthara guided them in applying Lyrian biotechnology. The infected crew members were deteriorating quickly, their minds being subsumed into the symbiote's growing collective. As Park attached the final neural connector to Kira's temple, Nixthara gripped her hand. Another flash of shared consciousness passed between them, but this time, instead of memories, Kira felt something else. A foundation of shared strength, two different species united against a common threat. Ready to initiate quantum broadcast, Park announced, his fingers hovering over the controls. Commander, if this works, your consciousness will be fighting the symbiote across multiple dimensional planes. No human has ever attempted anything like this. Kira took a deep breath, feeling the weight of not just her crew's lives, but potentially the fate of two civilizations resting on her shoulders. Sometimes the best way to fight darkness is to dive straight into it. Initiate the sequence. The quantum array hummed to life, and Kira's world exploded into dimensions she never knew existed. She felt her consciousness expanding, touching minds both human and alien, feeling the symbiote's cold intelligence trying to consume them all. But where it expected to find easy prey, it instead encountered something it had never faced before, the chaotic, resilient, unbreakable spirit of humanity. The battle for control was about to begin, fought not with weapons, but with pure will across the boundaries of space, time, and consciousness itself. Mind and steel. The quantum array bathed the quarantine bay in an ethereal blue glow as Kira's consciousness expanded through the ship's systems. In the higher dimensions revealed by the neural interface, reality itself seemed to ripple and fold like living origami. The symbiote's presence manifested as writhing tendrils of darkness, reaching hungrily for every mind within reach. Neural patterns are holding stable, Dr. Park reported, his voice seeming to come from impossibly far away. The interference field is expanding through the ship. But Commander, your vital signs are becoming erratic. Through the quantum link, Kira could feel every member of her crew, hundreds of individual minds shining like stars in her expanded awareness. She felt the infected engineers struggling against the symbiote's influence, their consciousness flickering like candles in a storm. And strongest of all, she felt Nixthara's presence, a crystalline structure of thought and memory that somehow complemented her own chaotic human patterns. Their minds are linked now, Nixthara observed, watching the neural readings with their mercury eyes. But something unexpected is happening. The symbiote, it's changing. In the quantum realm, Kira could see it. The darkness that had seemed so overwhelming was recoiling from the combined pattern of human and Lyrian thought. Where it touched their joined consciousness, its own structure began to fragment and dissolve. The symbiote evolved to consume minds that follow logical patterns, Park realized, excitement breaking through his professional demeanor. But the human mind, it's inherently contradictory. We can hold opposing thoughts simultaneously, believe in impossibilities, dream of things that can never exist. And when combined with Lyrian crystalline thought structure, we create something it can't absorb. Kira managed to speak, though the effort sent shivers through her physical form. Because it can't understand what we are together. Through their shared consciousness, she felt Nixthara's agreement. The alien warrior's own mind was changing, adopting some of the chaotic resilience of human thought while retaining its crystalline clarity. Together, they were becoming something entirely new. The infected engineers suddenly gasped in unison as the symbiote's hold on them weakened. The dark veins beneath their skin began to fade, but the process was far from over. The main bulk of the entity remained in the alien vessel, growing stronger as it adapted to their resistance. It's learning, Nixthara warned. Every moment we fight it, it evolves. We need to do something it truly cannot predict. Kira felt an idea forming, not in her human mind or in Nixthara's alien one, but in the space between, where their thoughts merged into something greater than either species alone could achieve. What if we don't fight it at all? What if we show it something else entirely? Through their shared consciousness, she began broadcasting not resistance or strength, but the full spectrum of human emotion, love, fear, hope, despair, joy, anger, all intertwined with Lyrian concepts that had no human equivalent. The symbiote's dark tendrils froze, trying to process this incomprehensible input. Remarkable, Park breathed, watching his instruments. The symbiote's trying to adapt, but it can't maintain cohesion. The sheer complexity of the emotional data is overwhelming its ability to assimilate new patterns. In the quantum realm, Kira felt the entity's confusion growing into panic. It had evolved to consume minds, to add their patterns to its own, but this chaos of feeling and thought and impossible contradictions, was like trying to drink the ocean. The more it tried to absorb, the more it began to break apart. But victory came with a price. Kira's human brain was never meant to process consciousness on this scale. Warning alarms began blaring as her vital signs became critical. You have to disconnect, Park insisted, reaching for the neural interface controls. Your mind can't take much more of this. Not yet, Kira gasped. We're so close. Nixthara, help me show it everything. Every dream, every nightmare, every impossible hope humanity has ever had. The alien warrior's hand found hers, and their combined consciousness exploded into something even the quantum arrays could barely contain. They became a beacon of pure possibility, broadcasting the full spectrum of two species' worth of imagination and contradiction. The symbiote's physical form began to disintegrate, unable to maintain cohesion in the face of something it could never hope to understand or control. But as it died, it left behind one final gift, a glimpse of what humanity and the Lyrians could become together, of heights that neither species could reach alone. As the quantum array powered down and Kira's consciousness returned to normal space, she knew that this was only the beginning. The universe had just witnessed what happened when humanity's chaos met Lyrian order, and nothing would ever be quite the same. The Hive awakens. The victory celebration aboard the Hyperion was cut brutally short. Warning signals blared through every deck as the ship's quantum sensors detected a massive disturbance emerging from the depths of the Carina Nebula. Multiple contacts, Lieutenant Roth announced, his voice tight with tension. Hundreds, no, thousands of them. Energy signatures matched the original symbiote vessel. Through her lingering connection with Nixthara, Kira felt the alien warrior's surge of recognition and dread. It's the Hive, they whispered. We didn't destroy the symbiote, we only killed a scout. The main viewscreen filled with a sight that made every crew member's blood run cold. A vast swarm of ships emerged from the nebula's swirling gases, each one corrupted and transformed by the symbiote collective. Their hulls writhed with living darkness, and they moved with the coordinated precision of a single organism. The scout's death triggered them, Nixthara explained, their mercury eyes fixed on the approaching armada. Every ship, every mind they've absorbed across countless systems, all awakening at once. Dr. Park burst onto the bridge, clutching his data tablet. Commander, the quantum readings are off the scale. The Hive isn't just a fleet, it's a single consciousness spread across thousands of vessels. And it's adapting to our previous strategy. Kira felt it too, the cold, alien intelligence pressing against her mind, trying to find a way through the defenses she and Nixthara had created. But this time, the attack was stronger, more focused. The Hive had learned from its scout's failure. All hands to battle stations, Kira ordered, her voice steady despite the pressure building in her head. But we're not fighting this alone. Lieutenant Roth, broadcast everything we've learned on all frequencies. Every human and Lyrian ship in range needs to know what we're facing. The response was immediate. From across the sector, vessels of both species began appearing on their sensors, a hastily assembled alliance facing extinction together. But would it be enough? The first wave of Hive ships struck like a tsunami of living metal and corrupted flesh. The Hyperion's shields buckled under impacts that felt more like psychic assaults than physical weapons. Across the combined fleet, crews struggled as the symbiote consciousness attempted to invade their minds. "It's different this time," Nixthra gasped, fighting to maintain their mental barriers. "The Hive, it's not just trying to absorb us. It's trying to understand us. To evolve into something that can consume even chaos itself." Kira watched as ship after ship fell silent, their crews succumbing to the Hive's influence. Their earlier victory had only taught the entity how to be stronger, more insidious. But as she observed the Hive's attack pattern, something clicked in her mind. It's still thinking linearly, she realized. Even with thousands of absorbed minds, it can only evolve in straight lines. But we can do something else entirely. She turned to Dr. Park. "Doctor, what would happen if we reversed the quantum array? Instead of broadcasting interference, we broadcast pure possibility?" Park's eyes widened as he followed her logic. The mathematical patterns would be infinite, cascading. We'd be overloading it with potential futures rather than fighting its present form. "But Commander, attempting this would mean sacrificing the Hyperion," Kira finished. "I know. Sometimes victory requires the impossible." She opened a channel to the Allied fleet. "All ships, fall back to minimum safe distance. We're about to show the Hive what happens when you try to cage infinity." As the Allies retreated, Kira and Nixthra joined minds one final time. Together, they interfaced with the quantum array, but instead of fighting the Hive, they opened themselves completely. Through their combined consciousness, they began broadcasting every possible future, every potential outcome, every dream that either species had ever imagined. The Hive's assault faltered as it encountered something truly alien, not order or chaos, but infinite possibility itself. Each potential future it absorbed spawned 1,000 more, each variation multiplying exponentially until its rigid consciousness began to fragment under the strain. "The Hive ships," Roth reported in awe. They're tearing themselves apart." Evolution's edge. The Hyperion's quantum core pulsed with blinding light as reality itself seemed to bend around the ship. Through their merged consciousness, Kira and Nixthra channeled an endless stream of possibilities into the Hive's network, watching as the massive collective struggled to process the infinite variations of future and thought. "Core temperature critical," Lieutenant Roth's voice cut through the chaos. "Structural integrity failing on all decks. We have minutes at most." The Hive ships closest to the Hyperion began to rupture, their corrupted hulls splitting apart as the symbiote consciousness tried desperately to adapt to the overwhelming flood of potential realities. But the entity's death throes were growing more violent, threatening to tear apart the fabric of space itself. "The quantum cascade is spreading beyond our control," Dr. Park warned, his instruments showing impossible readings. "If it continues expanding, it could destabilize this entire sector of space." Through their shared mental link, Kira felt Nixthra's understanding crystallize. "There's only one way to contain this," the alien warrior communicated. "We have to close the loop. Complete the circle." Together, their merged consciousness reached deeper into the quantum array, no longer just broadcasting possibilities but actively shaping them. They began weaving the infinite futures into a closed pattern, a perfect mandala of human chaos and Lyrian order that would trap the Hive within its own potential. The symbiote collective, unable to escape the endless loop of possibility, started collapsing in on itself. Ship after ship imploded as the entity's consciousness fractured, unable to maintain cohesion in the face of literally infinite outcomes. "All hands, abandon ship," Kira ordered, even as she maintained her position at the quantum interface. "That's an order. The Hyperion won't survive this, but the pattern has to be completed." As the crew evacuated, Kira and Nixthra remained joined in consciousness, their combined will holding the quantum cascade in check. Through their mental link, they shared not just thoughts but the deep understanding that had grown between them, the recognition that neither species was complete without the other. Look, Nixthera whispered in their shared mind space. The pattern we've created, it's not just destroying the hive. It's transforming it. The remnants of the symbiote collective, caught in their infinite loop, were indeed changing. Unable to maintain its original form, the entity was becoming something else, a bridge between dimensions, a living quantum computer that could process infinite possibilities without trying to control them. The Hyperion's hull groaned as the structural integrity reached critical levels. In their final moments aboard the dying ship, Kira and Nixthera witnessed the birth of something entirely new, a consciousness born from the merger of human unpredictability, Lyrian harmony, and the symbiote's adaptability. As emergency shuttles carried the crew to safety, the Hyperion disappeared in a flash of quantum energy. But what emerged from that flash was neither destruction nor victory in any traditional sense. Instead, it was a new understanding that rippled through both human and Lyrian space. In the years that followed, the transformed remnants of the hive became the foundation for a new kind of collaboration between the two species. The quantum bridges it created allowed for unprecedented sharing of knowledge and culture, while its living computational matrix helped both civilizations reach heights they could never have achieved alone. The legend of Commander Kira Nash and the warrior Nixthera became a symbol of what was possible when different species chose to face the unknown together. Their sacrifice reminded future generations that the greatest victories often came not from destroying an enemy, but from transforming it into something better. And somewhere, in the quantum spaces between dimensions, two consciousnesses continued their dance of chaos and order, watching over the civilizations they had helped to save and transform, their legacy living on in every impossible dream that became reality. The end.